Okay, now we have a good coat of glue around all of the inside edges, as you can see there. It has not dried yet, but we are going to conceal the pins that we placed in earlier to reinforce the book. That's why we needed the extra page at the beginning that we have here, that we're going to actually fold down on this and cover up the nail heads. So just take a very light coating of glue and go ahead and glue around the edge of this entire top page. You don't want a super thick coating of glue, just a nice thin coat of glue that we're going to stick this front page down to. Now sometimes when you're doing this you end up with a little bit of extra glue along the edge, along the inside edge that you don't want to show. So just run around the edge here, and then you can actually get that extra glue off from the inside edge. But you do want to make sure that the entire page has got a nice thin coating of glue. Sometimes this top page here will separate. You can actually pull up this first page and put down a little bit of glue there as well. Now take the rubber band off that you had for retaining these pages, and then carefully close the book and press down. Then at this point you're going to want to take your second sheet of wax paper, because you don't want to glue all the front pages together, just that one for covering up the hole. So these ones are going to remain loose pages. Stick it between there, and then from here you're going to want to actually stick this thing on the floor or a flat surface and then put a lot of weight on top of it. I actually have a 60-pound bag of cement. I put a backer board on the bottom so it doesn't pick up indentations from the floor, another board on top to evenly distribute the weight, and I put a bag of cement on this thing and I let it sit for, usually I go for overnight, but you can let the glue dry for maybe 6 or 8 hours, and then we'll come back and we will finish up this book. Now that the main book is on the floor with some weight on top of it to compress everything together while that initial layer of glue dries, I want to talk about how do we make the inside of the book, or dress up the inside of the book a little bit. Here we have an example of a finished book. It's a series of unfortunate events. It is a book safe that when you open it, it looks like a real book for the first couple of pages. Then you get to the actual cavity itself. But notice that I have a background picture in here, so you're not just looking at, what the inside of the cover would have been. Here on the back side, you actually have a nice picture that I cut out earlier before I started the process from inside the book. So we're going to do the same thing with the Reader's Digest book that we're working on. So if you remember earlier, this was the picture that I had found on one of the pages inside. I just sliced it out, and then I saved the back template from the backer board when we cut out the inside. This gives me a template to work with. So for this stage, all you're going to need is, of course, a pencil, and you can use a razor blade or a pair of scissors. And if you think of this as being the back of the book, we are going to use it as a picture frame to fill in what we want the back of the inside of the book to look like. So that looks pretty good right there. So I will just turn it over, and then I can use my pencil, and just by feeling where the edge is, mark off about where I want to cut it, because I don't want this page to use up the entire back side of the inside of the cover, because we still need to be able to glue the pages of the main book to the back cover, but we're going to have this on the inside. So now that I've marked that, I'll just go through, cut it out. It doesn't need to be exact, and just cut out a little square of what we want the picture to be on the inside. So there we have it. I cut out that piece of paper. I still have my backer board, so we can actually pretend that this is the inside of the book coming down onto it. So when we get it in the book, we will attach this picture so that when you open up the final product, this is what you're going to see in the bottom of the book. Now once that glue dries, we can get on to the final assembly process. While we're waiting for the glue to dry on the initial assembly, I wanted to talk to you about the costs involved with embarking on a project like this. If you already have a shop full of tools, then the cost is going to be pretty low. If you want to invest in some of the tools, you're looking at a pretty good investment, but a lot of these costs can be eliminated with different construction processes. If you want to do this by hand, with manually cutting the book with a razor blade and eliminate the power tools, it'll just require more of your time and may not be as precise. Also, the cost of the book that you're using is something to consider. I've seen book safes online for sale from anywhere from $15 up to close to $100. Now this all depends on, of course, the cost of the initial book. For example, if you wanted to find the perfect book to match the gift that you wanted to build for either yourself or somebody else, you may not be able to find that book in a used bookstore, thrift shop, or Goodwill, and you may have to buy the book new. An example would be a series of unfortunate events. This new would be $13 plus tax, whereas if I found it at a thrift shop, yard sale, or Goodwill store, we're looking at 50 cents to a couple of dollars, eliminating a lot of that cost. There's also other bells and whistles that some vendors and makers do offer, such as magnetic clasps and internal locking mechanisms, all of which, on top of the time that it takes to create these book safes, contribute to the overall costs of being able to produce one of these. So just some things to consider. Alright, here we are on day 2 of our how to make a book safe video, and yes, I did get a haircut last night. Here's our book, fresh off the floor after being pressed. It still has some of the paper, the wax paper in it. So let's move on to final assembly. Alright, now we're ready for final assembly. So for this step, obviously you're going to need the background picture that we cut out earlier, your painter's tape, spray adhesive, utility knife or razor blade, brush, and glue. As you can see, I put down some paper down on the work surface here because when we use the spray adhesive, we don't want it to get all over our workbench and everything else. So to start with, you're going to, of course, remove the extra wax paper that we had previously put in the book to protect the surfaces. The one on the back should peel off but leave some residue because you have some leftover glue that you need to remove. Make sure you keep the clean one. You're going to need that a little bit later. So now that we've removed that, we're going to go through with our utility knife and actually cut off the little extra glue that we have around the bottom inside of our hollowed out cavity. And this may take a little bit of doing, but you're just removing that so that you have a nice clean bottom when it comes time to final assembly. Okay, now that we've cut the extra glue out of the bottom, it's nice and clean around these edges. Now we're going to close the book, flip it over, and open it back up. This is that cover page that we glued down to cover up where we have the nails embedded. You can use your rubber band you were using earlier to hold these first few pages out of the way. And then you take your sharp utility knife and just stab it anywhere in the opening, and then using the edge as a guide, you're going to go around and cut out the leftover space out of that top page. As you do this, it may not be an exact cut right off the bat, but you can get out the main body of it right away. Voila. And then go back with your utility knife and actually clean up some of the edges that didn't quite cut the way they should have. And as you can see, now we have our opening in the book and everything's cleaned out. It is not glued to the back yet, so you can actually see all the way through the book. Now at this point you have the option of stopping and leaving it as is, but I like to have my my books having a little bit more of a finished touch. That picture that we had cut out earlier from a previous from one of the pages, using this as a template, you can actually toss this now, throw it in your burn pile, or better yet, give it to the local Girl Scouts or preschool or your elementary school, And they make great little project boards for the kids if they want to make picture frames of stuff to take home to their parents. But that's another story. Now, for putting this in, you're going to lift up the back side of the book, just kind of drop it in, close the book, and then we're going to use, we've got it in there, and then we're just kind of move it around to where we want it. I think that looks pretty good, making sure that the edges are all concealed. And then hold it in place with a couple fingers as you open the book. And take a small piece of painter's tape and just tape the top edge of it to keep it in place. That way it stays where you want it to be for gluing it down. Now, like I said earlier, we put down some protective paper down here so we don't end up with the spray adhesive getting all over our workbench. So we're going to open up the book to the other side, use that extra sheet of wax paper to cover up the book because we only want the spray adhesive on one side of this. So since this is taped in place, you just pick it up, fold it back, give this a quick spray, and then we fold this back down carefully to keep it straight and press it down. Now you don't want to use your Mod Podge glue underneath this because that is too wet and can cause the paper to actually bubble up a little bit. So now that's glued down, we will remove the painter's tape. We don't need this any longer. We can put away our spray adhesive and then just pick up the whole assembly. Get rid of your protective paper because you don't want the overspray to end up on the outside of your book. Grab your Mod Podge and your brush, and we are going to paint glue along this entire area here. And what this is going to do is will allow us to actually glue the back end of the back side of the book to the pages, making it permanent. At this point, you can even remove this rubber band, make it a little bit easier for pressing later. So let's get this glue on here. Okay, now that we have the back side totally glued, you can see I've got glue around the perimeter here, and it's a pretty good layer. All that's left now to do is to close the book, put it back onto the floor, put my weights back on it, and let it sit for another few hours. I would say at least 6 to 8 hours, mainly because the book is closed, or it is an enclosed space, so you're not getting that active air circulation around the glue to get it to dry quickly. So when it's in an enclosed space, leaving it overnight pressed is a good idea. So when we come back, we'll have the finished project. Okay, we're now about 6 hours later and the glue is dried, and we now have our final product. Our secret book safe. Will fit nicely on my bookcase, an inconspicuous spot for me to hide cash, jewelry, secret love letters, whatever else I want to keep hidden from prying eyes. And it turned out pretty good. So I hope that if you decide to make a book safe of your own, I've given you a little bit of helpful information. If not, you can purchase this book safe or one of the many others that I have created through my online store. My name is Jeff. I'm with Refined Palette, and thank you for watching.